Hello, today I am going to share with you all everything about studying and living in Australia, from shortlisting your course to university to getting a job and getting your permanent residency as well. And every single point is very important if you are coming to Australia or if you want to come to Australia for your studies, then you shouldn't skip this video and watch the entire video because you are going to get a lot of information and also helpful tips as well. So let's start with what courses are in demand in Australia, and then we'll move on to the universities. Talking about the courses, I would say that courses such as computer science, data science, AI, machine learning, construction management, then nursing, early childhood, marketing, finance, all of these courses are very much in demand over here, but there is a segregation between courses. So for example, Australia has skilled occupation list wherein they put the occupations list that are critical, which means Australia does not have people who are working in that area. So if you study those kind of courses, you would be able to get a permanent residency very quickly. But if you study, for example, courses like marketing, finance, which are in demand but not critically as nursing and early childhood, then it would be a bit challenging and the process will be a bit longer for you to get a permanent residency through courses like marketing, accounting, finance and stuff. And for you guys, I'll put the link in the caption of the skilled occupation list. There are two type of list. One is medium to long term list and another is a short term list that you can refer to. Now talking about the universities, please don't skip this part because it's very important. For example, I will start with the countries and the universities. So Australian government has given the levels to universities as well as countries. Now what does level means? That let's say, so there are three levels, level 1, 2 and 3. The universities which are highly ranked and are complying with the regulations and everything, those universities have been given level 1, which means that their credibility is very good. And for the universities that have been given level 3, their reputation is not that great. They are not complying with the regulations. They are doing some sort of fraud in the documentations as well. So that's why they have been given level 3. Now talking about the countries, for example, Sri Lanka is level 1, whereas India is level 3. Difference between both of them is that the students who have been applying from India, in past many years, they have been submitting a lot of fraudulent documents, and because of that, the visas were getting refused. So that's why they have given level 3 to India. And from Sri Lanka, a lot of people are really genuine. They don't submit fraudulent documents. That's why it has been given level 1. So now coming to the part wherein if you are applying from a level 3 country and your university is level 3, then your visa refusal chances will increase, because you have to understand that first of all, the country where you are applying from is a high visa refusal country, and then when you are applying to a university that is level 3, so your visa refusal chances increases. And for example, if you are applying from level 3 country but your university is level 1, then your visa approval chances increases. Now this part is something that none of the agents will tell you, so you have to do your research by yourself. I will also add the link for you in the caption from where you can check that whether your university is level 1, 2 or 3. I'll also mention the steps that will tell you that whether it's a level 1 university or 2 or 3 for your country. Also, level 1 universities will be a bit expensive than compared to level 2 and 3 university. So I understand that not all of the students or many students would not be able to afford the level 1 university's tuition fees. But then if you are aiming for level 2 and 3 universities, that's absolutely fine. But you need to have, set realistic expectations. You cannot be like that you are going to a level 3 university and you expect a salary package of $90,000 or $100,000 a year. And one of the best part about Australia is that every year the companies have a graduate program wherein if you are graduating in like this year, then there are companies that will be opening graduate programs in somewhere between June, July, and you would be able to apply for it. Students who graduated last year won't be able to apply in this year's graduate programs. So that's something which is very good. You don't have to reach out to any recruiters or something. You can just directly go onto the company's websites, look for the graduate programs and apply for it. Whereas so far, according to my research, I don't think majority of the companies are providing this kind of thing. I think it is in Australia and probably in one or more country. So this way your chances of getting a job after your graduation increases, and you don't have to stay unemployed for a really long time of period. Now, talking about which are the good cities in Australia, 3 states, there are only 3 major cities, which is Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. A lot of students prefer to go to these 3 cities only, but if you are someone who's looking for getting a permanent residency, then I think for you Perth, Adelaide, then Tasmania would be better option, because the tuition fees over there would be a bit cheaper and the living cost as well. Whereas if you go to Brisbane or Sydney, or if you come to Melbourne, then it's going to be really expensive in terms of living expenses as well. Because when I came back in 2022 and right now in 2025, if you compare the price of the groceries, like I used to get 1 kg tomatoes for about $2, and now it is $5.40. So it's that expensive now. Talking about Australian job market, it's very diverse, it's versatile. Aussie companies and Aussie people do believe in work-life balance, so that's why they have been ranked in top 10 for the work-life balance in the whole world. And majority of the Australian companies, they give flexible working situation, like either you can work from office, you can work from home, or if you completely want work from home, that you get that as well. You just get a 1 day Friday, wherein that is also optional, that if you would want to go to the office, then you can, otherwise you don't have to. But I always recommend to go to the office, because that's where you get an opportunity to network with people, and when you actually want to switch your job and stuff, then that becomes your networking is something that will help you switch your job very easily and quickly. One more thing I would like to tell you guys is that from COVID till 2024, a lot of students have been doing this thing, like when they are in India, they apply to a tier 1 level 1 university, and once they get the visa grant, they come here onshore, they do their first semester, and then they change it to courses like cookery, carpentry, painting and stuff, because getting a permanent residency through those courses is very easy. But at the same time, now the embassy knows that a lot of students are doing this, so that's why what they have started is that they have been cancelling the visas. And also, like when you are traveling overseas and when you are coming back to Australia, they will find out about these things and they'll deport you from there itself. They'll not allow you to enter in Australia. Also, when you want to apply for your student visa extension, then it becomes really difficult, because you came on a master's visa, you did 1 semester and then you downgrade it to a trade course. You are breaching the visa condition, and the embassy can see that, and they may decide to cancel your visa or they may not. But there are higher chances that they may, cancel your visa. So just, be sure of what you want to study, and take that course only from India itself. If you have a genuine interest, you can prove that you have, let's say for example, back in India you were a chef or you liked baking or something, then of course you can come here and change it to that course. But you need to have like sort of very strong story for why you want to change the course, and I think that should be fine. But otherwise, if you are just doing that for getting a permanent residency, then there are higher chances of visa refusal later on. Now, talking about getting a permanent residency, I will tell you about the 2 pathways. One is 189 visa and another is 190 visa. The difference between both the visas are that 189 is given by the Australian government itself, so that if you get an invitation from Australian government in 189, that means you can live, study, work anywhere in the entire Australia. Whereas 190 means state government is giving you the invitation. So let's say I actually got invitation for 190. So once I get my grant letter, then I have to live, work, study, do everything in Victoria only. And then later on, when I am extending my permanent residency after 5 years, then I can live anywhere, work anywhere in entire Australia. If you need help with understanding that which occupation will be best for you, or for an occupation which course will be good, then you can just ask me in the comment section below, and I'll help you out. Regarding the living expenses, Australia is getting very expensive these days. Earlier, the living expense was very low, somewhere around $1,000 and now it's $29,710. That's how much you will have to show for your visa. But once you come here, it really depends upon the way your lifestyle is, whether you are living independently or you are living in a shared accommodation or you are living in a shared room as well. So based upon all of these things, your living expense will be determined. Also, Australia pays like pretty good per hour wages, somewhere around between $21 to $30 an hour. So if you are someone who is, working really hard and doing job in cash as well, then I think you should be able to take out your living expense, because the per hour wage rate is very high and it's more than enough for you to take out your living expenses. If you are not able to, then I think your lifestyle is very high and you may need to recalculate the amount you are spending on yourself or on your miscellaneous expenses. About the post-study work permit, last year Australian government has made some changes. Now, if you are doing a master's program, then you still get a 3 years of stay back option. But for other countries, it has been reduced to 2 years. So if you are doing master's by coursework, you will still get 3 years of stay back option. It's only because of the India, Australia, some sort of agreement. That's why only Indians are getting 3 years of stay back option after the masters. But for other countries, it's going to be 2 years after the master's program. Now talking about for bachelors, a 3 years bachelor's, then you will get just 2 years of stay back option. But if you are doing a bachelor's degree which is in skill occupation list and is an honors degree which is 4 years, then you would get 3 years of stay back option. But if you are doing an honors degree, you need to have 3.2 CGPA out of 4 in order to be eligible to get a 3 years of stay back option. So this is for if you go and study in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. But if you go into regional areas like Perth, Adelaide, Tasmania, Darwin and all, then of course you get additional 1 year of stay back option. So I'll also put the link for the post-study work rights, that what you study, where you study and how much post-study work permit you will get. For that also I'll put the link in the caption. Since a lot of you wanted to know what did I study in Australia and how did I got my permanent residency, then let me just tell you that I did a graduate certificate from RMIT in Human Resource Management. Then I took an admission into Kaplan Business School, which is a private business school here for an MBA, because I wanted to focus on my own business, and for that I felt that the Kaplan Business School was doing their job. So I didn't necessarily think that I need to go to a top university to get the exposure and stuff. But depending upon your requirements, you may have to go to a top university, or going to a level 2 or 3 universities would fulfill your requirements as well. Now, I haven't got permanent residency through what I have studied, but it's actually based on my social media page that I have been working on from last 3 to 4 years. So I got my skill assessment as a blogger. It needed 3 years of full-time experience, which I had, so I got it positive. And then when I submitted my expression of interest to the Victoria government, then I got the invitation from them. My occupation was in the short-term list. When I checked, someone had applied in the same category, but that was in back 2019, and then I was the second one to apply for it in 2024. So a lot of you don't know what is skill assessment. So let me just give you a quick example that will make you understand what it is. For example, in India, when you become a doctor, then you get a license from the Medical Council of India. And when you want a license for becoming a lawyer, then Bar Council of India gives you a license to practice. Similarly, here you don't need a license, but you need a positive skill assessment, which means that if you are studying, let's say, anything related to data science, data analytics and all, then if you have studied computer science or IT with a major in data science or data analytics, then Australian Computer Society is an body that will assess your degree and tell you whether your skill assessment is positive or negative. If it's positive, then you can go ahead and submit your expression of interest to the government, saying that you are interested in applying for the permanent residency. But this is the first step of being eligible to apply for PR, like getting a positive skill assessment. Similarly, for each and every field, there is an organization that will assess your qualification. For me, it was VET Assess. Depending upon what subject you are studying, you will have to research. If you don't know or if you're not able to find, just let me know in the comments below that what degree are you planning to study. I will let you know that what organization you have to look at. Alternatively, you can also check through the skill occupation list. You open the link and let's say for example you want to get your assessment in marketing, then you will see that marketing occupation is being analyzed by AIMS, that's the organization's name. You have to submit your application over there. Now, for getting a positive skill assessment also, there are requirements that you have to fulfill. The way I said that VET Assess needed me to have 3 years of full-time work experience, so there were a set of documents that I need to have. So you just go to that organization's page and just type your occupation, and there you will find the entire details of what that person actually does in that occupation and what are the requirements or what are the documents that you need to submit to get a positive skill assessment. I know this entire PR thing and skill assessment process can be really confusing and overwhelming. So let me know in the comments if you would want me to make another video specifically focusing on the skill occupation list and applying for the skill assessment and for the PR and all. Then what I'll do is I'll just share my screen and explain how to go about it. So that's it for everything about Australia. If you got any more questions, then just ask me in the comment section below. Also like, subscribe and hit the bell icon if you like this video. And until next time, bye.